नमस्कार दिल्ली। आज हम लोगों ने सोचा है कि हम लोग हिंदी में कॉन्वर्सेशन करेंगे, वार्तालाप करेंगे. That's the only way that we can keep Mr. Wadia in control and ensure that the Parsi gentleman just cannot speak well in Hindi other than using explicit words. He's fantastic with.
You're supposed to start with Mitro.
Mitro. Okay, Mitro. But then I don't have that persona, so obviously I'll give that a skip. Okay. My journey with Noza started nearly 20 years ago, and it started with rejection. For 6 continuous years, this man just chose not to work with me. I had the guts to actually go up to one of his sites where the clients proposed my name to him, and he said absolutely no. But I yet went to that site. And I distinctly remember he actually scanned me in 2 seconds like that, from top to bottom. And the only thing that he said was, beep, 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 you're too good for my aesthetics, get lost. And I literally had tears in my eyes, literally had tears. And I didn't know what to do. And then 3 years later, a miracle call just happened. And he called me for a site to work on and just used few words and told me that, I want you to do this site. I don't have a budget, so I'll use my aesthetics and you use your Gujju brains and let's do this project together. I don't want you to use your aesthetics. So I said, fine, let's do this project. I went to site, and the first thing that he told me on that day was that if you want to be an exceptional designer, wear your beep, beep, beep ego on your sleeves and consider yourself as the best, and you will never look behind. I just have one question to ask you, that after so many years, do you yet believe in the same thing as what you told me then?
You can't be a designer without an ego. But some designers have an ego which is more than their talent, and that's what you need to keep in control. Kunal, you also. So, a lot, if you don't believe in yourself, you can't be a designer. If you are so worried about what the whole world will think of you, then you might as well work in central bank or something of that sort. Or Air India.
I'm next. Yes. So, Mr. Wadia, I have a question for you. As someone who's chronically offline, what are your thoughts on designing without any external validation, such as publications, social media? How do you manage that?
I don't know what you're talking about. What is all those things?
What are those things? Social media. No, but how do you, you're chronically offline. It's very different, your world, where you have no idea what anybody is doing. Is that right?
If I was so worried about what the others are doing, then I might as well cut up pictures from a magazine, stick them together, and make a mood board out of it. The clients are paying for your design, and that's what they're entitled to get. They're not, today I see 75 to 80% of all interior design, most architecture in India, basically cookie cutters. They all look the same, they all have glass, they all have a steel, and they all pretty much look alike. They look like shoeboxes on steroids. So you need to design for yourself, you need to design, actually not even for a client, you need to design for the client's lifestyle, you need to design for the site, you need to design for what the space is going to be used for, and everything else falls into place. So if you're going to look up magazines and talk about cutting, pasting, it doesn't really make sense.
But I don't think it's only about, looking up for referencing. It's also information, right? There's so much that you can learn from publications like Elle Decor. So, and you're not interested in any of that. So how do you manage?
I am interested in Elle Decor. But
he has the most beautiful books. He has the most
Yeah.
beautiful books. I think he does have his sources of inspiration.
Yeah, he does.
He has a
I agree, but
collection of
I mean, you know, like all of us, like I think I speak for a lot of us here, that when we do, you know, read magazines which are, you know, India-centric, we also get to know about a lot of designers, design, what people are doing, and we can use things in our projects. It's informative, inspirational and informative. And that's how I'm always amazed as to how Nozer retains you know, being absolutely fabulous and magnificent without being plugged into any of that. And, you know, even to date, like, I'll take him to, like, a store and say, oh, so-and-so does this, and, you know, all of that. For, you know, some of you who don't know, I worked with Nozer for many, many years. And I
then
was
she
his
got fired.
sidekick. He'd never call me a designer. I would be called a hajam or a bhangi. But, yeah. And I think he still treats me pretty much like that. But, yeah. How are you going to defend yourself since, you know?
Information for sourcing, etc., is fine. You get your inspiration from a lot more than social media or Instagram and
course,
stuff.
yes.
I would say that 80% of your inspiration comes from life. If you're traveling, looking around, keeping your eyes open, and you can see some most innocuous thing and use it for something totally non-allied. And that's what evolution of design is really. Just cutting and pasting is not really where I come from.
Oh, nice. Take it down.
Nozer, tell me, in the years that you've been an architect and run a design firm, what have been the greatest shifts and changes, for the better or for worse? But what do you feel is the most remarkable change that has taken place? And you've been an architect for many, many years now, so.
Well, when I started, we had a repertoire of 3 types of wood and 2 types of marble, and we had to play within that. Architects designed everything: furniture, lighting, ceilings, structures, doors, windows, everything. Today, we have in India probably more resources than anywhere else in the world. Most European countries are localized. They have their products. The East have their products. But in India, we have products from all over the world. And we have a great opportunity to use everything that's at our disposal. So that is one thing. The other thing is people seem to think that the computer is a fix-all for everything. And as somebody said for another profession a few weeks ago, that it's what you put into that thing is what you get out. So today, if you don't analyze the situation, you don't analyze your clients, you don't analyze the site, you don't analyze the use of what you're going to be designing for, you'll get exactly what you put in. So I think a huge, huge requirement today is to understand what you're designing. People somehow feel that you make a house, you make a house. Now, every house has to be for that use. And the client is a part of that use.
I have one more question for you. So, you know, I think that while you have made such spectacular houses and magnificent houses, all your projects have a certain degree of glamour and scale, which is very attractive and very interesting. So, how is it that you are able to avoid the mediocre projects that often people need to do? Because not every project is going to be glamorous and magnificent, but yours seem to be every time. How does that work for you?
When I was a young guy, a guru told me that there is always a market for good products. Don't be scared that it'll be too expensive. Don't be scared that, oh, it's so glamorous, it's so. There's always somebody who needs that product, and it will be recognized at some time or the other. So it's not that you have to design mediocre because your client requires a mediocre product or the client is mediocre.
Sure. No, what I meant was that you are able to avoid having to do boring or smaller or, projects that don't really interest you, while as you're always getting projects that are fabulous. So I think maybe perhaps you have to do all the fabulous projects and refuse to do all the mediocre projects in order to get more fabulous projects.
I know how he's going to
I
answer
think
this
that's really the case.
I think you get mediocre projects and you churn out fabulous products.
Wow. That's amazing.
Noza, how do you create and apply your design ethos instead of your personal style on your projects?
I copy you.
Fair enough, makes sense. Yeah, it took a long time, but yeah, you're finally getting there.
Well, she's on social media, so I think that's the next thing you should be copying then. But I have a question for you on behalf of VK. And it's a choice that if you got a client who gives you unlimited budget and no interference in design, but at the end of the project, you have to do an Instagram reel with the client opening doors and windows, would you do that? Not scripted.
When I started my career, I had 4 criteria for selecting a client to do his work or his or her work. Today, I think I'm going to add Instagram to that this thing. If a client says that I have to be on Instagram, that client goes to Vaishali or somebody.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about something that I have known about Noza. And over the 20 years that I've known him, I feel at this stage in his life, he's at his pinnacle where he's literally busier than at least 3 of us put on the stage together. And when I say busy, it's not quantum, but the scale. Like literally with Ritu, he's done a project recently somewhere, and it's magnanimous. And I just have one question to ask you, that when you do these kind of projects, apart from your instincts, what is it that leads you to select a project like that? What's your design journey? What propels you to take a project and say no to the other, apart from the vanity and the money bags?
Every project is a learning experience, and I firmly believe that the day you stop learning, you die, or you die when you stop learning. So you take on a project, even though you don't know anything about it or how to do it, and you educate yourself to do it. We've done projects recently where we've actually studied the techniques of that kind of work, and you put it together to the best of your ability. At the end of the day, it's a gut instinct that lets you do it. So
He hates Gujju, but he loves Gujarati food. So that's right.
So, I think I always feel that Nozer's projects actually reflect his generosity and large-heartedness. This is my personal observation. And I really believe that if you're a generous person in spirit, then you're able to understand scale of that kind, or a living room of that kind, or a sofa of that size, or a door of that height. So I've always attributed his larger-than-life scale and ability to deal with volumes and spaces the way he does, because I think he comes from a very generous and large-hearted kind of place. He is just that way. He's attracted to things that create an impression, but I think his generosity also filters down to the people he works with, from contractors to all of us who have worked with you. So I really feel that that's a very important part of sort of the circle of the way he thinks.
you don't want an answer, do you?
Do you think I'm right?
I don't care.
The first time I went to an antique warehouse with Nozer, we were buying something for a project, buying furniture for a project. And this was ages ago, and I was quite poor, and I couldn't really afford to buy anything there. But I was just like attracted to this pair of terracotta cats that I would walk past, then walk again. At some point, I asked the warehouse guy, how much are the cats for? And Nozer's like, "Ye madam ka gadi mein dal do." And I was just like, oh my God, really? And I think he did it more because he said I could have the cats and that the man could have them put in my car. And I think it did not come from, he wasn't trying to be nice to me. Firstly, I think he thought the cats were nice and that I was making the right choice. Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, he would never have,
would
never
never,
have,
yeah.
never. But just as a young person working with him, to have that kind of impulsive generosity, it's really wonderful.
It's only material things. And as I say, it's only money to my clients. I keep telling them it's only money. Just what are you going to do with it? Whereas what you spend it on is eventually coming back into your home and it's going to enhance the rest of your life. So, what are you holding on to your cash for? Spend it. Spend it on people like us.
Fair enough. All for it. Also, what are you giving me next? What can I take from your cabin? Okay, I have a question, Oza. How do you avoid designing something safe or ordinary? I remember that when we had done, when you had done Olive, and we assisted. Um, I remember at the time when AD took you to the space and you walked in and he had shown you one part of this property. And it was only supposed to be like he looked at this and said, okay, this is a space that I want to design and I want to create a restaurant. And you looked at the whole thing and you said, not just this, let's make the whole thing into what it is today. And the courtyard was your idea. And I remember it was just like this one very simple idea, the courtyard. And that's the most magnificent part of Olive today. How is it that you constantly come up with like these thoughts, ideas, all of that? I want an answer.
So that you can do the same thing. I think Olive is a classic example of when to stop designing. A lot of us get carried away with ourselves and keep designing and think that the more time you spend on a project, the better it will be. You don't have to justify your existence to anybody. And very often, a design is done in a few seconds. A whole house is put together in a few seconds, or it doesn't get done. But that's all that it takes. Eventually, why should you be mediocre when you don't need to be? Why should you be small? Why should you think small? For what?
Yeah, but I think it's quite admirable the way, I know that the client was expecting to do 1/3 of that space and you turned it around into the entire space. And that was, even for them to come on board and say okay to that, I think that was quite exceptional because they were absolutely not looking at that. They didn't have your vision. And I don't know how you managed to pull that off.
To increase my fees.
Good one.
So I must tell you this one little story. There was a project that Nozer did 20 years ago in Alibag. It belonged to a corporate family which just changed hands recently, unfortunately, to another corporate family. And it was a Spanish hacienda. And I think it was one of its kind in, I would say at least Mumbai, I don't know the world, or I wouldn't say India. And the beauty of that project was that the client had no dearth of money or nothing of that kind that would withhold him to recreate anything that he chose to do. And client has no limitations on design aspect itself. And all what Mr. Wadia went and did was paint polished and just changed a few things like creating ramps or something like that, maybe because elders were in the family. And for me, this was an eye-opener to what I understand as sustainability, where a product or a project stays with you for over 20 years and allows you to reuse it in exactly in its own form, then for me, that is the ultimate level of luxury and sustainability. I just have one question for you. Do you relate to today's fad or fashion of the word sustainability and what people call as upcycled, recycled, rehashed? I don't know what kind of words people use. Do you really relate to it, or you feel what you're doing is the way to go?
Design should have a longer life than what people are designing for today. Uh, Good design is judged after 30 years, 40 years or more. And that's, if it's still good design, then it's good design. What you're infatuated with today is not really the pure uh, judgment of design. If it's relevant after many years, I don't think people today are designing for the next generation, which I think they should. Uh, I know a few people in the audience who are children of my clients, and a few cases grandchildren of my clients, old, who still use the spaces that were made by their grandparents and are very happy with it and don't want to change it. So that is true, this thing of what design is.
I have a thing to say in here. He wouldn't say it, but I would. There was a conversation I was having with him early in the morning. The two things in common that I share with him, one is he's an early riser and so am I. And there have been few moments where I go to his office and we just talk about design. And he told me once that I don't design for social media. I design for my clients. So I want it to last. And I think that is something that really set it in stone for me, that this is the way one should be if one has to design, that design for the client to live for a lifelong and not just for that one moment that you want to gain your fame to wherever that you choose to go.
I'll tweak that a little bit. For me, the client is the person who is going to use the house. He is only the client. Clients seem to think that they're relatives of God, and just because they're paying you money, they have all the rights to design and to decide on the design. They don't. Clients have to realize that they're coming to you for your design and your thought put, and they have to respect it. When this is done, only then is it a thing. For me, the person using the home is not my client. The home is my client. And the client is just going to use that product. So I design for the house, for the office, or for whatever the structure is, and I don't design for that person. That person's use of that property is what is important, nothing else. So you don't design for the client. He is not qualified to make the decision.
How do you tell them that? How do you tell them that? Tell us now, sir.
You just sit in the corner and sign the checks. I'm serious.
I've actually been witness to one such conversation.
I'm sure that you've had clients who've not let you, who have sort of insisted that they have their way. And I've seen many of your clients come in and, with a thought and leave your office with another thought. And it's always been you, okay, doing your magic. So how is it that you consistently do that?
Because I don't go to the client's office, they come to mine. They need me more than I need them.
But I've
So
also
much
seen
to
him
learn.
subtly intimidate clients in a very, very, very subtle way. I have to share this one thing with you. We were on a site together of,
No names.
yeah, I know that. Listen, I've been quite good at that. I've been giving few dots, but not everything. And obviously that client was driving him mad, and he didn't want to back answer the client. So the next thing that he did was the contractor had goofed up on site. He drove that guy mad and blasted him. The client literally shat bricks and decided not to ask him any more questions or design so that he gets his way out. If I were to describe him as one animal who represents him, I would call him an elephant. Like, he has that one side to him which is ferocious. Like, he can ransack an entire garden, but he can love also with that same kind of zest in him. So, I mean, yeah, he has that knack of, getting a client to maneuver around what he needs at the end of the day. And then that's what works for the site, I guess.
If you believe in what you're doing, then why should you not do that? The client has come to you. Do you go to a doctor and tell him what to prescribe? Do you go to a lawyer and ask him how to write the brief or how to argue in the court? people seem to think that just because design is something that is close to everyone's heart, that they all become designers. Forget clients. There are contractors in my life who, because they worked with us for 30 or 40 years, seem to think that they are designers. And they don't always know what to put forth in that particular situation. So what's right in one project does not necessarily stay right in the next project. And that's how you stay on top. In our office, we don't keep any record of our work. We don't keep any drawings of past projects. And the staff is encouraged to reinvent the wheel every time they're doing it. So that way they are really on their toes all the time. And in my 45, 50, I don't know how many years of practice, shut up. We have never repeated a detail in the same situation. And we actively look forward to doing that. So we are always designing something new and something different. That's what keeps me young also.
Which brings me to the question that I want to ask you, Nozer. My observation is that not only are you innovative in terms of, the way you address each project, but I've seen enormous amounts of experimentation with materials. Firstly, you work with such a vast array of materials. I don't know, but I have not seen anyone else do that. And I think
Absolutely, I agree
we've
with
shared
you.
that.
Yeah.
He has the ability to create one counter, wash basin counter, with four different craftsmen working with four different materials, glass and stone and metal, and just get the most beautiful results. So, where did this start? Your desire to experiment, your ability to work with craftsmen of so many different kinds, and to never be afraid that this is metal or that's glass or that's stone. Whatever you wished happened.
Well, we were fortunate enough not to have too much information on the internet. So we had to touch, feel, work with different materials when we were younger. Today, we talk to designers who don't know, okay, they don't know the ass from the elbow. And they seem to be using materials just because it's a cool thing to do. That's not really what it's about. So if you use glass for glass and steel for steel and wood for wood, what's the big deal? You're not using wood as glass or using the material for a different property to what it was supposed to be used for. So it's no big deal.
You don't just use the materials, you also playfully find ways to experiment with them. I mean, now, can I give you one secret away? Okay, everyone will do it if they haven't already. No, he has these beautiful shutters that had a checkered glass on them. And I was like, oh, where did you get this checkered glass? It's so beautiful. So he said he laid, yeah, fluted glass both vertically and horizontally to get the checker thing. I mean, whatever he does, there's some amount of playfulness and experimentation, and it's all dealt with beautifully,
The
I
thing
think.
is to do is to not work a single day of your life. I don't think I've worked really a single day. And the day that design becomes work is when I take the day off. It should never become work. It should never become something you have to do. It's something you enjoy doing, you have fun.
Nozer, do you reply to emails?
Only if they are female.
Okay, Nozer, I have a question.
No, I don't reply to emails because I'm not obliged to reply to everybody who wants to speak to me.
Okay.
I will speak to somebody I want to speak with. Just because I have a cell phone doesn't mean I have to look at it. It's buzzed 4 times while we're here. I don't have to. Why are you so tied down to all the crap around you? The client wants to speak to you. Yeah, in the old days, he used to write a letter and wait for 2 months for a reply. So what is so urgent today? Why does he need to be, or anybody need a reply instantly? I'll reply when I want to reply. So even though I've read your email or your message or your WhatsApp, I don't have a proper answer for you, so I don't waste my time telling you I don't have an answer. I'll answer you when I have an answer.
And what do you think about WhatsApp groups? Does any client actually add you to a WhatsApp group? Do they have the guts?
No, there have been WhatsApp groups. But
So what are you doing on those WhatsApp groups? You're
I'm
ghosting the
reading
client.
what everybody's posting, but I don't have to reply to it. They're talking about themselves to each other and waiting for me to respond. Why should I respond? I don't have something to say. I hope my clients in the audience are listening to this.
So
Okay,
Nozer and I are on a WhatsApp group with one client, and the PMC wrote to him on the group, "Sir, may I call you?" And the next thing he replies immediately in a second, "Only if you're lying on your deathbed and if you're dying, then you do call me." That was hilarious. And then there were so many emojis that came down. I mean, we just thought that this man thinks about replying to him but doesn't want to answer him.
So you don't have something to say, don't say it.
okay. How do you make the time to design and create in the noise of daily coordination and troubleshooting? I think now the way we design and how we've sort of interact with clients is we are constantly available to clients nowadays. A lot of us in this room probably spend a lot of our day responding to things as opposed to designing, and we're designing in not during working hours actually if we really want to create something. Can you share something about your design process, and when are you creatively at your best? Do you have any advice on how to shut off the noise?
Yeah, you do design not in the office. You design before office hours, after office hours. Unlike you, VK, I get to office at about 7:30 in the morning. Design or do my work before. Then the rest of the day is time pass, contractor ko chai pilao, answer stupid questions your staff comes in with. And really your creativity comes not from sitting in an office or this thing. You need to loosen up, you need to wear shorts, you need to wear flip-flops, you need to not wear a shirt, and design freely. You can't sit in an office wearing a suit and tie and design. You can, yeah, pretend to design and you can do detailing and all that, but you can't design without a free mind. So, and also you must control the clients to not keep calling you. Tell them, I'm not going to call you back. Don't call me. Let me think. If you don't let me think, how the hell do I answer you? You need to be in charge of what's happening around you.
No, so just one question. Your son is a very talented architect himself.
Yeah?
And now that he has an office of his own and a practice of his own, can you give us a few insights into how you see the two practices and their difference and
The
their
guy keeps stealing my
similarities?
clients' children.
Huh?
He keeps stealing my clients' children. No, there is no conflict at all over there. When he started his own practice, we decided that you guys were supposed to ask me this question, that there is no democracy in architecture or design. No committees can sit and design. You have to design for yourself, and only one person is in charge. So we've decided that we won't work together. We sit 10 feet apart from each other, but we don't look at each other's faces. I think we're happier for that. I think he is. Where the hell is he? And I think it works very well, that you're there when you're required, but you're not there sitting on somebody's head. So
So we all know that, of course, Mr. Wadia is an architect and an interior designer, but he is also a closeted landscape architect, MEP, structural engineer, PMC.
And a collector of all things beautiful. I mean, you talk about lace and he has lace. You talk about tapestry and he has some tapestry folded there.
Some
Everything.
filigreed silver
Yes,
object
yes.
sitting there, yeah.
Whatever you can think of is somewhere in a wardrobe in his office.
We have worked on few projects where really we didn't have a budget. And I mean, nobody would believe that if we are working on a project together, the client doesn't have a budget, but we literally have hit it off on few projects where we didn't have the budget. And I want you to share with people how you design on those kind of projects where all of them are involved, but yet the budget is, I wouldn't say frugal, but I would say it's limited, and yet you tend to do things that are out of the normal.
Design doesn't have to cost money. You can use cow dung and create something great.
Then why do your projects cost so much?
Very good question. Because the projects that we do last for years and years and years. 50 to 60% of my budget goes into most things which the clients never see or will encounter, but it keeps the place working. There are projects which we've done 45 years ago. The electrical works, the plumbing works, the house hasn't had a drop of leakage. And that's what he has paid for initially, not for the glitz and the gold leafing and stuff like that. That's why it costs a lot. So the services are always, in our projects, over-designed because something is going to go wrong. Some kid is going to buy one of those spike busters, put it into one plug and attach 5 things to it. And you have to anticipate things like that. So you do have to overwire, you have to overplumb. You have to also factor for mechanical things easing up. So the AC, which is a 2-ton AC today, is not going to give you the same amount of power after 5 years. So you're not going to say, sorry, I designed for 5 years ago, not for today.
Nozer, how do you feel about vanity projects? We've had this discussion and, you've been talking about, I remember there was a project that I'd done.
What is a vanity project?
Well, according to you, this is your term. You said to me that you looked at a roof of a structure and said, this is a ridiculous waste of money. And, your client is going to not be happy at all. And I wouldn't do it. And you were sort of very, dismissive about it.
Okay.
And I remember saying, this is beautiful and stunning. And you said, you didn't, I think you didn't approve of the engineering, the cost of engineering.
Sometimes architects, including myself, design for our own egos and our own satisfaction. That's something which that's a guilt we all have to live with. And even though it's not necessary, we do it just because we want to do it. We have the power of God. We are the creators. So we can do it, so we do it. What is your take on that?
Then why are you so judgy?
Because I didn't do it, somebody else did.
That's right.
Nozer, why are you always in Milan or Bali or Venice when I call you? You're having breakfast somewhere exotic all the time. Please tell us about that.
Because I would not work in a place that I don't enjoy being. Can you imagine going to, sorry, I don't know where everybody is from, but to a place where you don't enjoy being, and why would you work there? Work should be pleasure, no? Why would you work in some place which doesn't turn you on, like Delhi?
I love Delhi. Guys, I really do. I promise. I love Delhi.
Have I done projects in Delhi? Yes. I have done a couple of projects in Delhi. Not bad.
I have a question for you. if you were to choose between democracy and dictatorship ruling over your site, what would you choose?
Absolutely dictatorship.
And why?
Okay, if I allow my landscape designer to design my
Mali.
structure, Mali to design my structure, uh, or give his opinion, people are always quick to give opinions, but eventually you have to listen to yourself. So, yeah, people can say anything they want to, but eventually you do what you want to do. So, if I was to take seriously everything that everybody has to say, I would have contradictory opinions and then I'd never make a decision. So, eventually, decision making is a dictatorship.
True. Whenever I work with him on sites, I'm literally like, I'm not even a contractor. I don't know what am I on site because he'll pen it down to the T where he won't name the plant for you, but he'll literally tell you, I want a sexy looking trunk, small leaves, robust, and the kind of adjectives that he uses literally makes you visualize what it should be like. And then it sets the tone. So literally when you're working on a site with him, which took me a couple of years, obviously, to understand, because as he said, you need to wear your ego on your sleeves, but not with him. I mean, other than him, everyone else. You learn so much. You learn literally every single aspect of how a garden or how interior should be, or how an architect should look at the landscape from within to look outside, and not just frame it like a picture frame or something like that, but literally there should be a dialogue between the inside and outside happening such that you literally feel that you're outside when you're inside. And yeah, I do agree that when somebody has such strong convictions, then dictatorship is the only way out. You can't be in a democracy. You make a mess out of the whole project.
If I
And he
take-
also decides what time everyone should come to site.
Oh, yes, of course.
And he always reaches before you. No matter what time he says you should come, he's there before you. That's another very dictatorial thing. I could never manage to be on site before him. So I don't know what time he wakes up. But what time do you think the rest of us should wake up, Nozer?
when I ask you to. Well, early to bed, early to rise, all that crap. But if you start your day early, uh, you don't wear out by lunchtime. Today we got up at 4:30 to come here, and everyone said, "Oh, sit down, relax, have lunch, this, that." It's not really necessary. It just keeps you going. So if you let yourself want to get up at 10 o'clock, like some people I know whose offices start at 11 o'clock,
He's definitely
It's-
not talking about me.
it's afternoon for the rest of the world. You should finish your the creative work before the office begins. So if you go to office when the office is starting, then when do you do your creative work? Do you do creative work, VK?
No, definitely not. I absolutely don't believe in it.
But tell me, Noza, if somebody called you at midnight or say 2 a.m. in the morning, would you do that site meeting?
One of the ways I judge whether I should take on a client or not is to give him a 6 o'clock in the morning appointment. I think some people have been subjected to that, or 7 and if they want to work with us, then they'll come at that time. Yes, I would work in the middle of the night if it's necessary, and we have worked on an ongoing basis. When I was young, an all-nighter a week was the norm. At 2 o'clock when you went, or no, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock was a half day. That thing is saying time now.
Okay, that's fine.
So when I worked with Noza, invariably at about 8 o'clock, all of us would sort of try and slide out of the door, and we're all trying to make movements, and Noza would be shouting from his cabin, "Half day!" So yeah, it is really half day for him. But Noza, I want to ask you a question. Something that's always for somebody who consumes as much design as you do, you have an incredibly vast library. You're always reading. You're always referencing. And so frequently we've said, let's have your work documented. And you've never, ever sort of allowed for it to happen in all these years. Very rarely, maybe, one project. Don't you think that just the way you consume design, if people were to see your work, they could learn from it, be inspired by it, and you're consuming it, let others consume your work as well?
You know, we all think we are the cat's whiskers and we're the greatest designers in the world. There are millions of people who are more talented, who are more excellent in what they do. And I don't really think that we are up there at all to be documented. Actually, I'm not even worth sitting on this table. I agreed to this in a moment of weakness, but I don't think any of us really are so extraordinary that we need to be documented. And
But
the
you
people,
enjoy reading about other architects,
but they are excellent architects.
so you think you're not excellent.
Absolutely not.
Then why are you asking for these fees?
Because I'm surrounded by mediocrity.
Thank you. Thank you so much.